Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I just did the first oil change on the truck since the rebuild. So this is the oil here. It's actually pretty clean. You can see a little bit of metal shavings, which is normal. I will be cutting open the oil filter for you guys as well. Kind of show you. It was I did clean the container first before I did it, so I could check and inspect the oil. It's still very clean. They show you here. So there's 541 kilometers since the rebuild. I also have the oil filter still from when the lifter failed. So I will be cutting that open and showing you guys as well. So we're gonna start with this one here, and I'm just gonna cut it open, do the inspection, kind of show you guys what happened, what went through it. So like I said, 541 kilometers. I did an oil change on the truck. Since it needs to be done, since it needed to be done for the rebuild. So let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out this camera a little bit. The next oil change that I'm going to be doing is probably after I'm hoping about 3,000 kilometers, just so that it gets some nice fresh oil. Do some nice regular oil changes for the first few ones. I do regular oil changes anyways, but that's besides the point. Like I say, I'm gonna cut open this oil filter. So once again, this is the oil filter from when it failed. The lifter failed. So we're gonna go through it, take a look at what happened. Okay, so I've always done an oil change usually every 5,000 kilometers minimum on the truck, give or take, obviously just a couple hundred kilometers depending on where I am at the time. So we're going through this. We're gonna see. So you can see how kind of gross that is. So this one was obviously close to being needing to be changed, like the oil itself. I did, believe it or not, at the time, I had the oil ready to go to be able to do the oil change. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a container to put the oil in. And I was getting prepared to do an oil change on it. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can see that, how kind of gross that is. Obviously a whole bunch more oil in here. Now, the other thing too is my truck was leaking oil at the time, quite a bit, and there's a lot of sludge in the bottom of this. I can see. You can see. So the truck was leaking a lot of oil at the time. I was having to put liter of oil in every couple thousand kilometers. So, which apparently with the age of the trucks at that time, very common. So you can kind of see on the bottom of that, there's quite a bit of crud and sludge. Like, just so you can see, which is to be expected. The truck is old. Like I say, 464,000 kilometers on it at the time. See if we can get these out somehow. I don't even know. Like, I don't see big metal chunks or anything like that in here. I do remember there was some metal chunks or metal filings and stuff on the, what do you call it, on the oil drain plug, because the oil drain plug has a magnet on it. There's a bunch of metal filings there. After I got my truck going, unfortunately, I made a mistake and had the transmission cooler lines were touching the battery, or yeah, the battery cable to the starter. I wanted to blow a hole in the one transmission cooler line. So I wound up having to replace those. I wound up replacing both transmission cooler lines. During that time, I did also find that the transmission cooler lines that were they were going into the transmission, and the shop that rebuilt the transmission originally didn't put these clips on. I don't know if that's going to focus. So these are the transmission cooler line clips that are supposed to keep them locked in, and they weren't even in the transmission. I got lucky and they never wound up coming out. So, but at least now that obviously I've done it, it's been put together and I've got the clips in there. But what's really starting to frustrate me is that, okay, I can pay a shop to do this work, but what quality of work are they going to be doing? Right? And like something as simple as that. Like, what if I was driving down the highway and those let go? Like, that kind of shit pisses me off. And you're supposed to have the trust in the shops. And for the most part, I do. But it was the same thing with, I was having the oil fouling up the spark plugs. And when I was having the oil fouling up the spark plugs, it was because it was missing bolt in the intake. And the intake was, and with the oil leak that was happening, going into the intake, into the combustion chamber and causing problems. But all because a bolt was missed. And it's frustrating. And don't get me wrong, I understand there's times when people they're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. I'm not saying that it's not. It's just, it's frustrating to me because it cost me money when it fails later on or causes a problem later on because of someone else's negligence. Now, don't get me wrong, if I fuck up, at least I know that's my fuck up. So there's like no real metal filings in here. So yeah, like I say, if it's my fuck up, at least I know it's my fuck up. I'm the one that fucked up, so now it's my responsibility to fix it. Right? I'm not going to blame someone else. Try not to blame someone else for my fuck up. That's why I'm trying to do a lot of this stuff on my own. Is because, fortunately, the trust has been broken. So yeah, like there's no like metal filings or stuff in there. And remember, this is the one from when the failure happened. And remember, I also parked the truck right away. I didn't drive it. I drove it like maybe 20 kilometers just to get home. So when it happened, again, I don't know if you can see, it's like nice and clean. So no real complaints here. So I was curious about that, and now I know. Like, you can't see chunks or anything in here. So yeah, it was a little bit gross. It is to so be, so dead. So is it. So now we're going to check the other one. So this one only has the 541 kilometers on it since the rebuild. So I'll grab that here in a second. Just clean this up a little bit. I will get it cleaned afterwards, but shits and giggles. I'll get a new one. And I've been driving the truck, like I say, for a little while now. And it's been running really, really well. Good oil pressure. No issues. So there's still a code, and it has to do with the evap system. I'm going to be honest, I'm not dealing with that right at this moment. I do have to replace. There's a vapor canister that's in near the fuel tank that needs to be replaced. I replaced the. There's a what do you call it? On the engine, there's a purge valve, evap purge valve. I did replace that. I did replace that before I started driving the truck. That seems to have helped a little bit. I knew that needed to be replaced anyways. So I also have to do, I'm going to do the fuel pump on the truck as well here in the near future. It's not gone yet, but if I'm going to screw around with the tank to get to that vapor canister, I might as well do those couple other things at the same time, especially with the amount of kilometers that are on the truck. So keep in mind, this is only 500 kilometers on it. So it's going to be relatively clean, at least should be. Smells okay. I'm going to pour the oil out of it, and hopefully you guys can see. So it is nice and clean. Not a lot of metal flake or nothing, which is good. There's a little bit in here, which is normal. There's supposed to be a little bit from the break-in time. So just so that you guys can see, there's a couple little metal chunks in there. That's just from normal break-in. Ah. I'm not gonna completely cut open that. Well, no, you know what? I'll cut all this open. I'm not seeing any metal flake here. It's glue here from when they glued it. Oil itself, a little bit of metal flake, which is, like I said, normal for the initial. So I just went through, kind of went like this. You can see a little bit of metal flake in it, which is normal. That's just from the break-in. That's, once again, that's why I'm going to be doing a couple oil changes a little regularly. Now, at this. So this was Royal Purple break-in oil that I used, 10W30. Which is what I chose to use. Now I've got regular conventional 5W30 synthetic motor oil in it. Which is perfectly fine for me because, like I say, I do regular oil changes. I did start it up right after the oil change, like I normally do. And I got, once again, very good oil pressure. Everything seemed to be all right. Now let's see how this is. Come on. So as you can see, still, so you got little tiny bits of metal chunk. That looks like just normal wear and tear for the bearings and stuff from what I've seen before on other engines I've done. Damn, that glue is strong. It's funny, you see a little blue chunk here, that's from the paint marker that I used to indicate that I had torqued the bolts. I tried to clean all of it off before closing it up, but very tiny bit of metal. I'm going to do the same thing when I do the next oil change as well, just to inspect and see. Holy cow, come on. Is that where that metal plate is, or what? And that's where the metal plate is. Yep, that's why. Same thing, little tiny, I don't know if that's going to focus. Doesn't want to focus. Little tiny metal flakes. Not much at all. Yeah, it's pretty clean. Like I say, you can see the little blue mark. That's from, like I said, the paint marker. And there's a couple of small little, just normal bearing and seating of the engine, which is good. Needless to say, I'm happy. Things seem to be working all right. And that is pretty much it. The engine is running very well, which is to be expected. It's tough because it's been such a long time since I've actually rebuilt an engine or done an engine. The last engine I've done was, believe it or not, for this Camaro that's in the garage. And that was many, many years ago, 18 years ago. 18, 19, 20 years ago, actually. So it was a very, very long time. And the engine that I rebuilt for the Camaro was the 305 5.0 liter that I had for this. This car was originally a V6 standard transmission. I wound up putting in 305 high output, but I did rebuild it with camshaft, intake, time and chain gears, lifters, all that kind of stuff before I put it in the car and got the car going, as well as a 700R4 automatic transmission. But all I did was I made a plate. I don't know if you can see here. There's certs, so I had a cover here to cover up that hole. Because obviously automatic transmission, you don't need to worry about that part of it. You didn't have linkage going through there in the same way. And then it went to the back. In the back end, I wound up rebuilding the rear end, 10-bolt rear end with 373 gears, Posi. It was a really good Auburn gear set. Unfortunately, I don't have that stuff anymore for this car because I wound up selling it because that's not the way I'm going to be going with the car. So you guys watched me build the LS engine for my truck because my truck needed it to be done. Believe it or not, I have an LS iron block for this car, and it's sitting underneath the stairs here in the garage. I did go through that, dismantle it. Should be in one of the other videos. So that iron block will be getting built eventually as well at some point when I'm ready to do it. So I don't want to rebuild the engine too early and then have it sit for a couple years. It's just, there's no point in doing it that way because then the internal parts can get rusted and whatever else, especially if you're using break-in oil. Because regular conventional oil, believe it or not, has some additives to it that will help prevent rusting, whereas break-in oil is supposed to only be used for, like I say, a couple hundred kilometers, maximum about 1,000 kilometers, and then you switch it out with conventional oil. And if you let it sit with the break-in oil for too long, then you can cause some issues on the internals. So anyways, thanks for watching. I don't know if you guys can see, I also got my front bumper here. So when I was doing the transmission cooler lines, unfortunately, I had to pull off the front bumper in order to do transmission cooler lines. And I was tugging it, and this piece was actually frozen to the front of the truck. Be mindful it was minus 30 when I was doing it. And it wound up breaking the plastic piece plastic backing piece in which that grill was attached to. However, I did realize that these plastic pieces are not the best. So, and this one was an aftermarket one, but luckily I still have the original, as you saw, and I'll be able to fix and replace that and put it back together. So it'll be fun. Just slowly getting a few things done here and there on the truck as I can, because funds are very, very limited at this time. I don't have very little money at the moment, so, which is fine. I have no issues with that. I've got a house to sleep in, live in. I've got food in the fridge and cupboard that can sustain myself and my family, so that's the main thing. And you just got to get through it, keep going, have fun, build cool shit, do burnouts, and race. Thanks for watching. Have fun.